Robinson. I imagine that if you are a teacher, you know him. Okay, a great person devoted to education who died, unfortunately, during the pandemic 2 years ago. And he said, the fact is that given the challenges we face, education does not need to be reformed, it needs to be transformed. The key to that transformation is to put students in an environment where they want to learn and where they can naturally discover their true passions. And I've underlined some of the words, which are like key concepts. The question of transforming, the question of students in an environment in which they want to discover. And that is something with which we are going to deal with today. So our agenda today will be, number one, why we need to transform education. And that's why I am going to tell you what exactly we need to do. I am going to deal with the new trends that now we have in education. And finally, how we can do so, how we can take all this to the classrooms. So number one, why? Why is it that, according to Sir Robinson, we need to transform education, and why I do believe that we need to transform education, especially after this pandemic that has hit the world in such a big way. Have a look at these faces. Well, if you work with children or adolescents, I imagine that they look familiar, right? Adolescents always like this, not knowing what they are doing in your class, right? Or bored, or sleepy, or just thinking about something else. Do these faces look familiar? You tell me. Yes or no? Have you got students like this in your classes? I think we all do. I think we all do, right? Adolescents and children today, right? They are a special species, okay? Let's see. Now, why
Marcela,
is it?
Caro,
yes?
Sorry. Caro has a question, I believe.
Yeah, Caro, yeah, you put up your hand, just me. No, maybe she doesn't know how to lower the hand. From the same place where you raise it, yeah, you have to lower it. So, so why is it that we've got adolescents and children like that in our classrooms? Well, mainly because 21st century is offering them a different context from the one we used to have in the past, okay? I imagine that because of your ages, I mean, we all graduated, right, in 1990s, 2000s, okay, right? So more or less at the beginning of this century. And the context was a completely different one. We continued in the same way we did in the past, okay? We haven't changed much, but the context now is different. Adolescents face very different realities from the ones we used to have. A reality which is, let's say, completely dominated by demographic change, by environmental problems. Everyone talks about global warming. Everyone talks about climate change. Everyone says we have to take action. Increased inequality in the world, and we see that day after day. Political uncertainty. Have a look at what's happening in Ukraine nowadays, right? Russia. So, I mean, absolutely political uncertainty, even in our country. Globalization. The world is globalized. And of course, technological advances, right, which are running incredibly fast. So, well, how can we take all this to the classrooms? What do we do with this? So what is it that we need to transform? First of all, we need to transform the content. Our 21st century students need to know much more than the rules of grammar. We, teachers of English, have the possibility of introducing them to a new world through the use of the lingua franca, English. English is a lingua franca. English is a language which is used all over the world. Every place in the world where you go, there will be someone speaking English, and we have to take advantage of that. English is the lingua franca. Now, I'm admitting, Andrea, the people who are coming in, right? So I don't know who they are, but I'm just admitting them, okay? Now, we teachers of English have that big possibility in our hands, okay? We have our language, English, right, in our hands, and we can do much more than the rule of grammars, of the rules of grammar, much more than conditional sentences, much more than reported speech, much more than all the things that we do in our classrooms. Yeah. Now, how? Here it says that we don't teach just a language. We are teachers of English, yes, of course, but we also teach human beings, and we don't have to forget that. And our human beings are facing very, very different realities from the ones we used to have at the beginning of the century when we graduated, maybe, and we started teaching English. We don't need to forget that. And for that, we have global citizenship. Now, what is global citizenship? Have a look at this.
People, places, and economies are increasingly interdependent and interconnected. Ongoing global challenges are impacting all. Solutions require thinking and acting beyond national borders. Young people want an education that is relevant to their world and aspirations. Global citizenship education.
Can you hear?
No, I was telling you that one of the participants cannot watch the video. Can you stop sharing
Why
and
not?
start again?
Stop sharing what?
Your video. Yes, and start again.
Okay,
maybe.
sorry. Okay. And what about this person that says introduce yourself, Andrea?
I don't know who he is or she is, so as for security.
Is it possible that it's Donna from the United States?
From a galaxy, could it be?
I
asked her. I know
she's from the United States. I don't know if she's from any galaxy, any other galaxy. I have no idea.
No,
I don't know. Just ask her.
Yes, I asked her.
Okay, that's it. Well, let's go on then. All right, so I will start sharing. Okay, perfect, Carolina. I will start again.
Can help. We live in a globalized world. People, places, and economies are increasingly interdependent and interconnected. Ongoing global challenges are impacting all. Solutions require thinking and acting beyond national borders. Young people want an education that is relevant to their world and aspirations. Global citizenship education can help us learn to live together in peace. It nurtures respect for all, a sense of belonging to common humanity based on human rights. It helps learners think critically, understand the interconnections between the local and the global. It builds motivation to engage and assume active roles to resolve global challenges, and contributes to a more just, peaceful, tolerant, and sustainable world. Global citizenship education can be delivered in schools in a variety of subjects, but also outside of school. Community associations, authorities, the media, family. It concerns everybody. Education fosters global citizenship. When students learn about global issues and how these impact on their communities, when young people are given the opportunity to learn from each other, and when they're taught to respect each other's differences and opinion. Global citizenship education is most effective when teachers engage in participatory approaches to learning and are equipped with appropriate teaching materials. Global citizenship education is most likely to succeed when all girls and boys feel respected as human beings and are encouraged to participate in school life. We can all be global citizens.
And I will change that. It's not that we can all be global citizens, but we all are global citizens, right? We all belong to the world, right? And I I'm sure that you agree with this, right? We need our students to get to know a little bit more than the things we teach them at school, yeah, because they will be living in a global world. They are already living in a global world. But if you work with adolescents, if you work with children, in 8 years' time, they will be in the working field, working in globalized companies, working in a globalized world, and they need to know how to deal with that. So, global citizenship education is what we need to take into our classrooms, and that is the first thing, the first clue that I am going to give you, right? The first new trend that we need to take into our classes. Global citizenship education, as it says here, right? It's the result that UNESCO gave to all these challenges, right? And it works by empowering learners of all ages to, let's say, work to understand, to work towards all these global issues that are affecting us. These global issues, that is to say, problems that are everywhere in the world, not only in our country. It aims to instill in learners the values, the attitudes, and the behaviors that support responsible global citizenship, creativity, innovation, and much more. And this global citizenship education works on 3 levels: on the cognitive level, on the social-emotional level, and on the behavioral level. That is to say, giving the knowledge and the thinking skills that our students need to understand the world and its complexities. Social-emotional, that is to say, working on the values, the attitudes, and the social skills that will enable our learners to develop their values, to work with others in the future. And behavioral, that is to say, the performance, the practical application, and the engagement with these local and global issues. Global citizenship education is based on the 4 pillars of education. And I do like this, and it seems like 8, but they are just 4. The 4 pillars of education. That is to say, the learning to know, the learning to do, the learning to be, and the learning to be together. The learning to know is connected with all the subjects that we teach them at the school, including English, of course, and including government and civic education. I imagine that in most of the schools where you work, there is a subject called Educación Cívica, right? Or now I think it is Ciudadanía, right? Okay, so Construcción de la Ciudadanía. That is basic for any human being. So learning the core subjects is part of education, learning to know. Learning to do by including the famous the 4C, the so-called 4Cs, that is to say, collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. These are the basic skills that our students need in this 21st century. Our students need to be critical thinkers. Our students need creativity to deal with today's issues, with today's problems. Our students need to communicate effectively because they are in a globalized world and they need to work with others and to communicate with others. And our students need to work collaboratively. Sorry, but this is something that everyone is putting a lot of emphasis on, to work collaboratively. And what is to work collaboratively? To be able to work with others in peace, that is to say, accepting others' ideas. The learning to be, including social and cross-cultural skills, sense-making skills, metacognitive skills, the fact of learning to learn, of creating habits of lifelong learners, right? The idea of being a lifelong learner. There is always something else to learn. There is always something new to learn. Every day of your life, you are learning something new, and that's wonderful. That is the learning to be. And the learning to live together, of course, right? Seeking value and diversity, accepting diversity, including teamwork and interconnectedness, digital citizenship and global citizenship education, intercultural competence, right? Learning to deal with others, with a person from India, with a person from Mexico, with a person from Japan, learning to work with others. That is the world our students are going to face when they leave school. So why wait till they leave school? We have to start right now. We have to make them global citizens now, not when they leave school, right? Not to teach them what will happen, but to teach them how they can do so. Yeah. A global citizen. What is a global citizen? A global citizen is a citizen that respects and values diversity. It's a citizen that is open and curious, like Mariana today. It's a citizen that takes action towards equity. It's a citizen that believes that all children and young people have a right to an education. It's a child a citizen who wants to tackle social justice, who wants to live sustainable with all the things that are being said nowadays about the topic, a citizen who is aware of the wider world. The world is not just the school where they are and what surrounds them. The world is much more than that. So how can we take all this into the classrooms? And remember, first trend, we mentioned global citizenship education. How? Through the Sustainable Development Goals. What are the Sustainable Development Goals? Do you know what the Sustainable Development Goals are? Write in the chat box, yes or no, so that I can get to know. No, okay, good, Jose. I'm going to tell you in just 1 second. No, just one no. The others, okay, Romy, no. Good. I'm going to tell you just 1 second. Not sure. Mariana says, okay, good. Well, that's good. So I'm going to tell you, right? Of course. No, Olga, good, excellent. You don't know. I'm going to tell you all this in just 1 second. The Sustainable Development Goals are 17 goals that the United Nations created in the year 2015. These 17 goals are part of the United Nations agenda to be, let's say, accomplished by the year 2030. That is to say, in the year 2000, when the century started, when we changed centuries, the United Nations saw that there were some issues, some problems that were common to all the world. And they decided to settle some objectives that they had to complete by the year 2015. At that time, in the year 2000, they proposed only 8 goals. Among those goals, they had universal primary education. You know that many girls, especially in the world, cannot go to primary school because they are not allowed to. One of the goals was primary education for all. Another goal was the question of HIV at the time, AIDS. It was a very bad illness at the time that was affecting, let's say, millions of people around the world, and they wanted to combat AIDS. Another goal was the question of education. They wanted education to be better for everyone. By the year 2015, when the 15 years had passed and they had to accomplish these goals, they realized that they had not been fully accomplished, but they had been able to work on most of them, and they had been able to reduce a lot of them, especially one of them, which is poverty. They had been able to reduce poverty, so extreme poverty. And so they said, well, okay, we have already accomplished this to reduce these goals. Now let's go for more. And they decided to create these 17 Sustainable Development Goals with a very big change. In those 8 goals that they created in the year 2000, those 8 goals were created only for developing countries. When we talk about developing countries, we talk about countries in Africa, countries in Asia, countries in Latin America, countries which are not developed fully. And so, of course, they do not have necessary means to accomplish goals. And so, of course, that's why these goals by the year 2015, they were not fully accomplished. So this time, when they created the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, they said, now we are going to create the goals for developed and developing countries at the same time. That is to say, we all need to work towards these goals. Developed and developing countries, Europe, North America, Oceania, Africa, Asia, Latin America, all the continents together, giving a hand to complete this 2030 agenda. These 17 Sustainable Development Goals are all interconnected. By working on one of them, you are working on all the others. These 17 Sustainable Development Goals are connected with all the issues that our students need to know, because they are all the problems that our students need to face and the problems that they will need to tackle in the future. Number 1 is no poverty. Number 2 is zero hunger. Number 3 is good health and well-being. Number 4 is quality education. Let's see if we can watch this video, which is really wonderful. I know this is the website. I thought that it was a link to the video. I'm going to show it to you later on, instead of telling them naming one by one. I was planning to give you the video. Gender equality, and when I mean gender equality, I'm not talking about the question of being a female, a male, or whoever you are. Gender equality means men, women, all together at the same level, working in same conditions, earning the same kind of money, being the same citizen around the world. You know that in most countries, in a lot of countries in Asia and Africa as well, women do not exist, unfortunately. Clean water and sanitation, with all the pollution question that we have nowadays. Affordable and clean energies. You hear people talking about wind power, solar power, no more fossil fuels. Well, what does it mean? We need to work towards that, and our students need to know that as well. Decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities around the world, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, How many things do you buy, and how many things don't you use then of all the things that you buy? A lot. We buy. We are eternal consumers, and we don't let's say, consume all the things that we buy. So we need to take care of that, because in the process of production, all these things that we buy waste a lot of water, waste a lot of energy, waste a lot of things that we really need for other people in the world. Climate action, that's goal number 13, climate action. Climate action, everyone talks about the carbon dioxide emissions and global warming, not using more plastics, and reducing the use of fossil fuels at home, and not using the car, but walking. Why? Why is that? Because we need to take action against the climate, against our atmosphere that is suffering so much. Life below water, pollution is killing a lot of fish that we need to eat because we need to survive. Life on land, we see a lot of forest fires around the world. What's happening with that? Yeah, why is it that biodiversity is dying so fast? Peace, justice, strong institutions, what's happening with that? Yeah, a very serious issue. And partnership for the goals, that is to say, all of us working together towards achieving this 2030 agenda. This United Nations agenda, which has been, in fact, created for the governments in the world, because this United Nations 2030 agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the Global Goals, were created in the year 2015 for governments around the world to set the goals that they had to achieve by the year 2030. But you know what happened? The pandemic came, and the pandemic made all the work that they have done between 2015 and 2020 go backwards. And so Antonio Guterres, who is the Secretary General of the United Nations, came out to say that we all need towards this 2030 agenda, that every citizen in the world needs to give a hand to reach this 2030 agenda. And it is here where we as educators have a very important role to play. We as educators need to open our students' eyes towards all these issues that are happening around them. We need to make them know that these are not only local issues, that these are global issues, that every person around the world is suffering from these problems, that every country in the world is under these problems and is dealing with these problems, and that we have to find a solution all together. And that if we all work together, the world is going to become a better place to live by the year 2030. I firmly advocate for these sustainable development goals. Now, if you ask me, Marcela, do you really believe, you know that I work with the United Nations, but if you really ask me, Marcela, do you really believe that these 17 sustainable development goals are going to be achieved by the year 2030? Do you think that by the year 2030, we are going to have no poverty? That we are going to have zero hunger around the world? Do you really think, Marcela, that there will be reduced inequalities by the year 2030, when we are almost mid-2020, and so much is to be done about this? I have to say no. I have to say no, but yes, I do believe as to take them to our classes as a framework to make our students know the things they have to work for, the things we have to work for. And you, if you are a teacher of English and you work with updated material, you know that most of the books of English nowadays deal with these topics. You see lessons connected with global warming, and you see lessons connected with good health or quality education or gender equality, right? We see these issues included in our books. Well, we have to do much more. We have to make them work towards these sustainable development goals. Now, how? I will tell you how I work with these sustainable development goals in my lessons. First of all, I have to tell you that I am lucky. I am a teacher of English, but in a special school. It's a bilingual school. So in a bilingual school, we have a lot of subjects in English. The subjects that I teach too, and I've been teaching them for 17 years. So all these things that I am telling you, they really work in the classrooms. I teach environmental management. I'm an environmental educator, and I teach global perspectives. These two subjects are excellent to take all these issues to the classrooms. But I've realized that these issues can be taken to the classrooms without being an environmental educator, without being a global perspectives teacher. Being a teacher of English, you must take all these things to the classrooms. I will tell you how. First of all, by using thinking routines. Do you know what they are? I imagine that you are acquainted with thinking routines. Thinking routines is they are strategies used by or proposed by Harvard University by Project Zero from Harvard University to make our students thinking visible. That is to say, how can we make our students visible, thinking visible? How can we really get to know what is inside their heads? Because you know that sometimes one thing is what the students tell you in the class, what they think is happening. And another thing is what they are really thinking inside. There is one picture that I saw many years ago, and it's just here in my mind, but I was never able to find it again on the internet or whatever. And there was a teacher in the classroom asking the students where they thought that the tomatoes came from. And she asked the students, where do you think tomatoes come from? And all the students, right, were with their hands up, ready to give their answers. 2 or 3 students thought or were thinking, you were able to see the bubbles here, were thinking about the farms and let's see the farms that they could have in their homes or in a countryside. And there were other students who were thinking about trees, tomatoes hanging from the trees, but they were not tomatoes. They were tomato cans, because that is the reality that these students see. Students see not farms with tomatoes, but they see the tomato can when they go to the supermarket, okay? So their thinking was there. Their thinking was with a tomato can. That's why it's very important to get to know what is inside your student's head, what is happening in their student's head when you are talking as an educator. And that's why these thinking routines are essential strategies to take to the classrooms. You can use thinking routines with any issue, right? With any lesson that you teach, right? I am going to use them with the Sustainable Development Goals. I am going to tell you how I work with them. But I mean, you can take it with any issue. You start teaching, I don't know, vocabulary on animals, right? And you have to deal with animals in the tropical rainforest. Well, okay, let's do a KWL chart. This KWL chart is, I know, I wonder, I learned. At the beginning of the unit, you make them complete this first unit. What do you know about the topic? What do you know about animals in the rainforest, right? Then, what do you wonder? Are there questions that you ask yourself about animals in the tropical rainforest? So your students may be saying, I don't know, are there elephants in the tropical rainforest? Or can we find, I don't know, any special kind of lion in the tropical rainforest, right? At the end of the unit, they are going to complete this part of the chart, what they learned about the tropical rainforest and the animals in the tropical rainforest. And so you start from what they know, previous knowledge, following with what they want to know, that is to say the wonder part, finishing with what they learned at the end of the lesson, right? Another one that you can use is this one, which is wonderful, is I used to think, but now I think. That is to say, when the lesson begins, you start working on previous knowledge and you start, what do you know about, let's continue with these animals in the tropical rainforest. What animals in the tropical rainforest? Okay, they came to my mind and here they are. What do you know about animals in the tropical rainforest? Well, I don't know. I think that there are a lot of animals. I don't know if there are elephants there. I don't know if they are big or small. Okay, just write it down. Yeah. At the end of the lesson, when you have worked on the topic and you have learned all the things, you have taught all the things that they needed to learn, you go to this thinking routine and they start like this. I used to think that there were elephants in the tropical rainforest, but now I think that I was wrong because there are no elephants in the tropical rainforest. The elephants are somewhere else in the savannah. You see? So this is a typical thinking routine that you can take to the lessons, and they take just 1 minute to do. They don't take much time, right? And you can also ask, how and why has your thinking changed? How have you changed your mind? What made you change your mind? Another one is I see, I think, I wonder. We teachers of English work with a lot of pictures, with a lot of images. Am I right? I guess I am. Right, lots of pictures. So when you show a picture, you start bringing previous knowledge, right? Okay, seeing what they have in their heads when they see these pictures. So what do you see here? When you ask what do you see here, they just have to tell you what they see exactly. A car, 2 hands, 1 finger, 3 trees, a street, nothing else. What does this make you wonder? And so what do you think about this picture? Well, I think that the street is it's desolated. Maybe it's winter and there is no one in the street. Maybe everyone is sleeping. Maybe, and so they start projecting their knowledge, right? They start taking their knowledge out of their head, taking their thinking out of their head. And finally, what do you wonder? I wonder if everyone is sleeping, who is working? I wonder if it is winter, do they all have heating in their houses? I don't know. And by just following this thinking routine, when you work on a picture, when that work, you will be able to get lots of ideas, lots of things out of your students' head. And that's wonderful, because if not, we just keep to what they say, and that's not good. We need to go even inwards to see what they are really having inside the head. And a typical question that you have to ask all the time in your classes is, what makes you say that? This is the most common thinking routine that we can use in the classrooms. What makes you say that? Because you know that sometimes we ask questions and the students come out with different answers, some of them which look really silly, yeah, in the context that we are dealing with, and we don't pay attention to that, and we say, yeah, okay, and we continue with our class. But what made the student say that? Why is it that the student said that, right? It's because there is something in his head that made him, his or her head, that made him or her say that. So we have to ask the question, oh, really? And what makes you say that? And your student will be able to give you an answer, right? That maybe you will find interesting, because maybe it's something that you have never thought about, but maybe that you have never thought your students were thinking at that moment. Right? So what makes you say that? That is a typical question that you need to take to your classrooms. Thinking routines, how do I work with them? Well, we have the global goals. As I tell you, I work with the global goals. So I make my students work in groups and work collaboratively. And I make them choose one of the goals, one goal they have to, or they want to work with, they want to work for, because then we're going to find solutions to that goal. Once they have the goal, and make them look for, first of all, just pictures in connection with the goal. And so I start setting these thinking routines, okay? A KWL chart. What do you know about the topic? What do you know about poverty? What do you know about education nowadays, right? Okay, what do you want? Yeah, at the end, when they have finished the process, we are going to see what they have learned about this. What do you think about poverty nowadays? Is it increasing? Is it being reduced? Okay, at the end, we are going to see what they think. Pictures with I see, I think, I wonder. And I always ask, what makes you say that? Because I can assure you that their answers will really make you get surprised, right? Because they have very good things into their heads. Our students have very good thinking into their heads. So I work with project-based learning. Project-based learning is something which is much in fashion nowadays, but it's not something new. It's something that has been in the, let's say, teaching field for some time already. What is it that I do? I make them choose a goal. I make them start working with that goal, and make them go and look for the global perspectives, okay, of that goal. That is to say, what is happening around the world with that goal? What is happening in Africa with poverty? What is happening in Asia with poverty? Is there poverty in Europe? Look for information. In that case, we're also producing, or we are giving our students autonomy to work, and giving autonomy to our students, teaching, centering the education on the student is one of the things that is so much mentioned nowadays, okay? Because we need to do that. We need to make our students active learners. They need to work actively, yeah, and it is the best way to work, because if we make our students, let's say, investigate, if we make our students, let's say, think and work collaboratively, we will be producing meaningful learning in them. They will remember things much better than if you just give them all the things like this, okay? So remember, active learning. So they start looking for the global perspectives. Then they go to the national perspectives and they start seeing what's happening in the country in connection with that issue. And then they go to the local perspectives, right? And they see what is around them, what is happening around them in connection with that issue. Once they have the global perspectives, the national perspectives, and the local perspectives, I make them think of solutions, courses of actions to take towards those problems. What can we do? And what can we do locally? What can we do at a local level? Maybe just raise awareness, maybe. Maybe there is not much that we can do. Sometimes my students say, I would love to go to Africa and help African people, but I cannot go. And I say, of course not. But if we help the people around us, we will be helping all the world somehow, because we will be helping to provide a better future. And so, before going to assessment, when we finish with all this, they provide the solutions and they provide their courses of action. I'm sorry, but my voice at this time is terrible on Friday. We start working on a project, and they have to create something to, let's say, work on that. For example, if they believe that the only thing that they can do in connection with the issue is just raise awareness on other students, I make them prepare a sort of slides or PowerPoint or whatever it is, and I make them go to other classes and show what they have learned, okay? I make them go to other classes and talk to other students. If we can, we prepare an assembly at school. In the last 2 years, unfortunately, because of the question of the pandemic, we were not able to do that. But if not before pandemic, we used to have assemblies at the end of the year in which the students showed the work that they had done, showed all the investigation that they have done, and they told the other classes, the other students from lower forms, from upper forms, okay, what they had been working on. And it was really wonderful because the other students got motivated through this work, right? And they wanted also to participate and do things. For example, in connection with poverty, one of the groups had suggested taking food to schools or to poor areas near our school. I live in Lanús. When we are in a developing country, though I live in an urban area because I live just in the center of Lanús, much around my area, there are a lot of shanty towns, right? So what they proposed was to take food to these places, right? Non-perishable food to these places. And they started collecting food at school, right? You can't imagine how much the other students were able to do in connection with that. They all wanted to participate. They were eagerly motivated to participate. Yeah, and that's wonderful because you're making your students take action. You are making your students work. You are making your students become active learners. In the future, they are not going to remember the wonderful class you gave in reported speech, but they will remember what they did at school, collecting food for, let's say, poor areas. So that's why we have to change. We need to transform the way we work in the classrooms. Now then, at the end of this project, I always have to assess them. And you say, how do we assess? It is not reported speech, it is not passive voice. You cannot give them 10 sentences and see what they have learned in the process. But yes, I can see what they have learned in all the information that they have brought, and I can see what they have learned in the product they have created, yeah, to show other people or to, let's say, raise awareness on other people. And so I assess them by means of this ladder of feedback. This ladder of feedback is excellent. You know that nowadays everyone is talking about, well, changing the question of evaluating the students in the classrooms. No more summative assessment, which are the tests we used to have in the past. But yes, dealing with, let's say, formative assessment, in which we follow our student's process, right, to see how he reached our goal. And so in that case, you can use perfectly well this ladder of feedback. This ladder of feedback is like this. Your students finish their work, you read it, yeah, and you say you can use it perfectly well with compositions, with writing. Oh, could you help me better to understand this part? What did you want to say with this part? Okay, why is it that you wrote this? Because I cannot clearly understand what you mean here. Oh, what I like about your project is Or one positive point that I find in your project is this. Then my wonders, my concerns, right? Have you considered changing this part into this and this and this? What I wonder about is if people are going to understand this issue, because it's not very clear here. Perhaps you have thought about this, but I also think that you can change this into these words with this and this and that. And then your suggestions as teachers. Well, now I suggest that you should do this and this and that because it's going to be much better. So following this ladder of feedback, what you are doing is to give an importance to your students' work, working with them personally, right? And not just correcting, tack, 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 tack. You hand it in and your student puts it in the folder and that's it. Yeah, yeah, the teacher has already corrected it. I got a 1, I got a 4, I got a 5, I got a 10. Right? No, following with this, working with this ladder will blow in the process, and you will be working with your students face to face, right? I give you this, you give me that, right? I tell you this, you tell me that, okay? This is called the ladder of feedback, and it is something that it's used all around the world nowadays, right? It's another thing from Harvard University Project Zero. Thinking routines and ladder of feedback. And also this, the rubrics. When students prepare some sort of work, when students prepare some sort of, let's say, a oral presentation, they have to know in what way they are going to be evaluated. They have to know what you are expecting from them at the end of their presentation. So that's why working with rubrics is excellent. A rubric is this, what you see here. You assign points, yeah, to, let's say, different aspects, right? And then you add all the points at the end of the presentation. For example, have a look at this one. Let's see, well, we cannot make it bigger, but this one is very clear, right? Let's imagine they had to prepare a portfolio with different practical tasks that they had to do, right? And they have to hand it in. What are you expecting from them? At the beginning of the portfolio, you give them this, you give them the rubric, and you say, at the end of the work, at the end of your work, I am going to evaluate you this way. You have to know what I will be expecting from you. You will get 4 points if your homework is in an orderly packet and is incredibly neat, right? With no smudges or tears. I will give you 4 points if all of the assigned work is complete. I will give you 4 points if the homework was received on the due date. I will give you 4 points if all the answers are correct. I will give you 4 points if all the work is meticulously shown. I will give you 3 if the homework is in an orderly packet and is neat, but with a few smudges and tears. I will give you 1 point if the homework is disorderly. I will give you only 1 point if students, if you haven't turned in the assignment. So by showing this at the beginning of the task of the activity, students know what you are expecting from them, and so they know what they will be working for or what they will be working on. Rubrics are essential also for assessment nowadays. By working with all these things, with all these issues, rubrics, let's say formative assessment, the ladder of feedback, and working on thinking routines, you will be working towards sustainable goal number 4, which was education, quality education. Sustainable goal number 4 has a very important target that the United Nations wants to reach by the year 2030. A target that says by the year 2030, ensure that all learners acquire knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship, appreciation of cultural diversity, and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. We need to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. So our students will be happy because we are working in a better way for them. We are working towards sustainable goal number 4. And by working on all the other goals, because as I told you, you can work with all these goals that we have here with the 17 sustainable development goals, you will be working right, on a lot of other things, right? Because you will be working on promoting gender equality, on promoting responsible consumption and production, on promoting decent work and economic growth, on promoting climate action. You know that these sustainable development goals are not only, I mean, I use them as a framework in the classes, and I want everyone to use them as a framework in the classes. There are lots of classes around the world that are using the sustainable development goals as framework, working on project-based learning. But you as a language teacher can also take these sustainable development goals to the classes. When you start a unit, any topic that you have to deal with, any topic will be connected with one of these sustainable development goals. And that is the moment when you have to take these sustainable development goals into the lessons, right? You have to open their eyes. You have to open their eyes to what is happening around the world and work with global perspectives. Your students have to know that there is a world around them that is suffering from the same problems. And you, as a teacher of English, have the possibility of dealing with all these issues, because you can go to YouTube and you can find lots of videos to deal with. You can go to the internet and find a lot of information in English that you can deal with. And so your students will be using English all the time. So by working on the sustainable development goals, you will be encouraging learners to be curious using project-based learning or inquiry-based learning. You will be opening your students' eyes to the world around them. You will be developing project-based learning on real-world issues based on the SDGs. You will be promoting cultural awareness and critical thinking in the classroom. You will be creating virtual exchanges for them in which they interact with the students from other countries. Why not? You have to open your classroom's walls. You have to break your classroom walls and get connected with other classes. That is what I do, and I will tell you in a minute how. You are going to make your students collaborate with and act on issues that have both a global and a local impact. Because you have to remember that the world becomes what you teach. You are teaching children, you are teaching adolescents, and those adolescents and those children will become the person that you teach, right? So you have to take that into account, right? And you have to know also that life is fading, right? The world is dying at alarming rates, and so we need to act on these issues. Students need to act on these issues. By working on all these issues, you will be working on the 4 C's, as I mentioned at the beginning: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, the basic skills your students need to survive in this 21st century. But now you tell me, Marcela, wonderful, yeah. At school, I have to teach reported speech and passive voice and conditional sentences type 3. Those are the 3 things that I have to teach this year because I don't have much time and I have to finish with a curriculum. And I say, yes, you're right. I know that you are working and you're running after a curriculum. But I also know that there are lots of ways in which you can take these issues into the classroom. For example, you can use literature, right? You all use readers in the classrooms, I imagine. Well, try to find readers which are connected with these issues. Oxford has a wonderful series which is called Oxford Discoveries, which deals with all these issues, right? Readers, very, very simple readers to work with children in primary level, yeah? And that are very helpful to work towards a sustainable development goal. You will have a reader connected with water, a reader connected with global warming, readers connected with different issues of the ones we mentioned in the sustainable development goals. If you work with adolescents, you have wonderful stories. This one, for example, A Long Walk to Water, is a story about a girl who lives in Africa and who has to get up very early every day to go to fetch water in those big jars that they put on their heads to bring a small quantity of water that will last just one day. But they have to travel long distances to fetch that water, yeah? So make your students aware of having water at home every day. That is what we need to do. Open their eyes, raise awareness on these issues, right? That we are lucky living in the place where we are, right? Because we know that adolescents nowadays, maybe there are lots of adolescents thinking about living somewhere else, leaving the country and going to live in Europe or in the United States or any other developed country, of course, right? They are going to look for better perspectives. And I really say, well, wonderful, yeah. I'm very glad you want to have a better life. But why not have a better life here and be happy with what we have? Because we have a lot of issues. It's true, right? And I do agree with that. And I always complain about them. But if we compare ourselves to Africa, aren't we having an excellent life? Are we leading an excellent kind of life? Yes, we are. If we compare ourselves with India, aren't we leading a better life than there? Yes, we are. And you have to know something. If we compare developed countries with developing countries, more than 50% of the world is developing. More than, and I would say almost 70% of the world is poor. It's not rich as countries in, let's say, United States or any country in Europe or Australia or Japan, right? Most of the world is developing. So why not make our students be happy with what we have? Yeah, trying to make them feel, let's say, powerful with the things that they have around them. Yeah. Well, The Lorax is a wonderful film for children, which really talks about all the problem of climate change and the question of cutting down trees. And you know that the trees produce carbon dioxide, but if we don't have trees, we will have more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and so we will have global warming. So that's wonderful. That is a topic that you have to use in your classes, not just watch the film and see the new vocabulary. No. You have to talk about these issues. You have to make them raise awareness on these issues. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind is another story. It was also made into a film. Le diría que es El Chico que Derribó el Viento o algo por el estilo. It's a story about an African boy who made a windmill, right, to be able to work with the question of the water in Africa, right, and the energies. You can go to these websites, have a look at this. globalgoals.org. Globalgoals.org is an excellent website to find resources to work with the sustainable development goals into the classrooms. Here you will have lots of, here if you go to the goals, you have campaigns, you have videos, but if you go into, for example, the goals, let me see where they are at the very beginning. It has to be in home then. Home, here, the 17 goals. You go into each goal. For example, I don't know, climate action, let's go. Number 13. You go into the goal, yeah, and you start lowering it, going down, and you will find, for example, how we can take action, right? what we need to do to take action, right? For example, we can choose reusable products. We have to recycle paper, glass, plastic, metal, etc. We have to reduce the use of paper. We have to use the bike, walk, or take public transport instead of using the car, which sends a lot of carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere. If we go to goal number, for example, life below water, the question of fishing nowadays, right? So much fishing. How can we take action? And so, for example, here it says that, okay, you have to run a campaign on the effects of plastic use in the seas and the oceans, which is contaminating so much. Never buy bottled water, boil, filter, chlorine rainwater, do what you can. Buy local and certified fish. You can support small scale producers by shopping in local markets and shops, right? Stay informed. Well, there are lots of things that you have here. Have a look. If we go backwards, here it says resources. When you go to resources, you're going to find the logo and all that. But then you always have some sort of, let's say, video or something at the bottom that you can take to the classrooms, right? Okay. Again, campaigns, here you have, right? You see, or Malala, for example, who is a very important activist in education, right? She works for the United Nations and she supports this United 30 agenda as well. She's the representative of Sustainable Development Goal number 4, education. Here you have lots of videos or readers or passages that you can take to the classrooms to work with, right? To show global perspectives, right? So that is one of the websites. The other website that, here, this one, the word luscious lesson is even better than that one. It also works with that. Well, it's in here. From here, you can change the language. Okay, you can go to English if you want to. And also here, if you go to resources, well, now I don't know why, but I cannot change the language. Bueno, sigue en castellano, but it is in English as well. Here, for example, you have lots of things. You have readers and you have videos, and for example, you have comics. Right here, comics to take these global goals to the lessons if they are children. Global goals food project animation. Okay, and you have lots of things to watch and take to your classes to show your students what we can do towards our dear global goals, right? And then I want to show you this video. Have a look at this.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
to fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone.
Everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one
wakes in the morning
asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die of
diseases we know how to cure. And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
where everyone
goes to school. And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive
and be powerful
and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is held back.
We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
and proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where
there is sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light,
and power for the whole planet.
without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper.
And new wealth
leads to decent jobs
For everyone.
And we will live in a world
where our industry,
our infrastructure, and our
best innovations
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated.
inside our countries,
And between different countries.
Where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
what we consume.
Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate
change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
will restore and protect
Life on land.
The forests,
Animals. The earth itself.
with peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people
Work together.
And partnerships of all kinds.
To make these goals a reality.
For everyone, everywhere.
These are the United Nations global goals
for sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
Let's make it happen.
I imagine that if I ask you if you have recognized any of the actors, actresses there, you will say yes. The same thing will happen if you show this video to your students, right? No direction. Oh, this, yeah, I remember this woman. It was in such a film and this and that. Okay, and they will see that a lot of people are working or are raising awareness towards these sustainable development goals. So we need to do that. One more thing, for example, working with infographies, right, that you can find in www.un.org, the website of the United Nations. It's full of infographies, and you can work infographies to teach vocabulary also, to see what is being done about each sustainable development goal. But the most important thing, and this is what I want to really tell you, you need to break the classroom walls. That is to say, get connected with the schools around the world, get connected with teachers around the world. There are lots of passionate teachers that are working with the sustainable development goals and are making their students open their students' eyes. They are trying to make their students open their eyes towards all of these issues. Why? Because we have realized that this way works. This really works in the classrooms. Globalize the classroom, that is to say, make them work with these global perspectives. If you cannot get connected with other classrooms around the world, there are lots of organizations that, work towards this. I'm sorry, but is Donna here? Andrea, has Donna come in? No, I don't think so. No, I do not. Samara, I don't know where, who she is, but no. Because she was planning to come. Donna is in the United States at the moment. She's in Colorado.
Sorry, Marcela. Sorry to interrupt you. I couldn't open my mic. No, she's not in. No.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Okay, maybe she couldn't. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's right. Because I was planning to, let's say, have her here to tell you about, let's say, the project she works with. She's in Colorado. She's a teacher in Colorado, and she organizes global projects. Right? Okay. You can participate. Right? You can take your students into these projects, okay, and make them work with schools around the world. I belong to all these organizations, as you can see right here. And as you can see in some of the pictures, I have taken my students to lots of places around the world. We have even traveled, and this was wonderful. When I say traveled, of course, it means virtually. Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya. And it was a fantastic experience. My students will never forget that. Talking to the refugee children in Kakuma refugee camp was a wonderful experience. We were all like this. Wow, how much they know, how much they taught us. And it's incredible. It's incredible to have that reaction at the end of your class, okay? So this is what you need to do. You need to show them that, you need to show your students that there are other people around the world with better things, worse things, all fighting for the same sustainable development goals, right? I am a Teachers DG's ambassador. I've been working with these goals for, let's say, 6 years, 5 years, okay, already. I am a Climate Action Project facilitator. There is a project which is called the Climate Action Project. It starts in September. It finishes in November. You can take it to your classes. It's in English and it's in Spanish as well. It's a world project that is created by an American teacher called Jennifer Williams and a Belgian teacher called Contimers. They are global.
Eso te mandé, pero no sale del banco.
Andre, justo no sale del banco, no sale del banco, Andre, it's a big problem. It's a big problem, okay, si no sale del banco.
I have not, so sorry for this, I have no internet connection. I am sending money to my daughter and I can't. And I also, I couldn't enter from my computer to the Zoom meeting as well.
It's okay, don't worry. So, I mean, the idea is that this climate action project, you can take it to your classes. Anyone can participate, right? Okay, any teacher around the world can participate. And you follow a series of steps that they ask you to do, and you teach your students climate action. The first week, you will be working with the causes of climate action. The second week with the consequences. The third week with the solutions, what we have to do to change the world. You have to change climate action and to help the environment. Then you will be working on, let's say, preparing a presentation. And in week number 5, you will be getting connected with the schools around the world. How? Virtually, of course, on Zoom meetings, on Meet meetings, or whatever platform you use. Now, you tell me, Marcela, at the school, we don't have any platform because we don't have technology. It happens, okay? I told you at the beginning of this webinar that I am lucky because I work in a bilingual school with a lot of facilities, but I know that there are millions of schools in our country that do not have those facilities. And so what if you do not work in a school with, which gives you the possibility of using technology in the classrooms? There are a lot of virtual, you can use, for example, Padlet, yeah, or slides to prepare presentations and send them by mail to other schools around the world. And that school can send them presentations to you. Why not? You can use the cell phones, right? Yeah, and send messages to other students around the world. We have to use the technology because you know that technology is what is advancing so fast and what our students can manage like this, okay? So this will teach us to work from local to global, that is to say, trying to see what is happening around the world. But once that we get to know what is happening around the world, we need to go to our local perspectives again and try to see what can I do to help, and have a look at this. What can I do to help the world? Yeah, with a capital letter, not because it's I, but because it's I, very important, right? It is let's say, more important word in the question. Because if you ask yourself, what can I do to help? It's because you want to help and you want to take action. And I always say that if you look around and there are other people that are not doing anything, don't care. If you want to work like this, do it. Because small actions multiplied by a lot of people will produce a big change, right? We don't have to be like this. We need to take action. And we don't have to forget that our students are digital natives. We, our generation, and when I say our generation, I don't know if you're all 52 years old, but I imagine that you're over 30, right? Over 40. We are digital immigrants. That is to say, we had to migrate from the, let's say, the way we worked in the past to the way we work nowadays. Now we can use computers and we can use, imagine myself, I started working when I was 20 years old with a CD player. No, first it was a tape recorder with a cassette. And I took the cassette to my lessons. Then I changed to the CD player and I went with CDs. Then with the MP4. Now I've got everything in the cloud. Okay, so I mean, my God, I am a digital immigrant. Yes, I've been changing so many things in my years as a teacher, right? But our students are all digital natives. They were born with a cell phone in their hands. They know how to use technology without asking you. So we have to be able to take advantage of us and take that to the classrooms. That's why I say work with slides, work with PowerPoints, work let's say things that they can manage perfectly well. There is one more thing I want to show you. Work with storytelling, right? Make your students tell stories about the things that they have found or about the readers that they have read by using this kind of, let's say, this role story is wonderful. I don't know if you have watched this or you have seen this before. Pay attention.
Let your imagination run wild with Roll a Story from Junior Learning. Kids can develop their storytelling techniques in oral language with this picture dice set. There are 10 dice categories to choose from, providing countless narratives to dream up. To tell a story, simply roll the dice and look at the pictures facing up. Group the related dice together and choose the dice to tell your story with. You could share a story about the sun, a forest, and a singer, Or you could share a story about a horse, an apple, and anger. It's time to get creative. Each pack also comes with a carry sack, so dice can be tidily put away. Link themes and ideas together with Roll a Story. Junior Learning. For the love of learning.
Well, and I don't know if Junior Learning is here. I'm not, let's say, advertising them, but yes, I know that these things exist here, right? So you need to, let's say, find them and work with these dice because they are wonderful. What I do in my classes, my students prepare the dice, right? And so we prepare the dice in connection with the global goals, right? And they throw the dice and they tell what the story, right? For example, if poverty, of how a teacher, right, or a student started working on a project and was able to find the solution for poverty, right? And that's wonderful. You make them work orally, you make them think, create, creativity, yes, collaboration, because they have to work with others, and that's wonderful. TikTok, they do TikToks every day. Yeah, they prepare their TikToks every day. Why not prepare a TikTok, for example, with the solutions that we have towards one of these global goals? Why not prepare a TikTok with the solutions for climate change? Powtoon, for example, this is a wonderful application. It's free. It's a wonderful tool that you can take. This, for example, is one that I prepared in a course that I took right here. But have a look at how wonderful it is. It tells the story in a short time with music and everything. Let's see. It's not, should be, yeah, I wait. Wi-Fi, come on, work for me. This was connected with the things that we had learned during the pandemic. And you see, Powtoon, I just added some words of what I wanted to show, and the same Powtoon added the pictures and the music and everything, and I created a wonderful video in just a question of seconds. So, I mean, your students can do this perfectly well. They can do it from their cell phones, right? They can do it anywhere. So this is wonderful. We have lots of opportunities to take to the classroom, lots of things that we can take to the classrooms. The important thing is that we have to take action, and I am almost finishing now. Take action now. And you will get lots of benefits, right? First of all, the value of multiple perspectives in the classroom. Then the commitment to promoting equity worldwide. Then you will create a positive belief in your students, a sense of hope, the idea that they are part of the solutions of this world. Active engagement, active learning. They will be working actively, and they will be creating meaningful learning. And then they will be having voice and choice. It's very important for the students to say what they want to say and to choose what they want to choose. They can choose how they want to work on that, what solutions they can find. They can, let's say, express themselves in connection with an issue, and that's wonderful. Yeah, they will love it. And many others, of course. But the most important thing is that your students will be using English all the time. And if you connect them with students around the world, they will be using English all the time, because English is a lingua franca. English is the language that they will need to be able to communicate with the rest of the world. English is the language that they will need to look for global perspectives around the world. Yeah. So, I mean, this is extremely important because we, as teachers of English, what we want is this. We want them to use the language. You will be working on values. You will be creating empathy in your class, right? Empathy towards all these issues and towards other people around the world. And the most important thing, you will be building trust in the English language classroom, because when the students love what they do and when the students can express themselves and when the students feel that what they are saying is important, then they feel confident. Yeah. And if they feel confident, they will create more opportunities to use the language in the classroom. As Mahatma Gandhi said some years ago, a lot of years ago, be the change that you want to see in this world, right? Don't wait for others to make the change yourself. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make in the world. That is Jane Goodall, right? If you know Jane Goodall, she worked actively towards the environment, right? She's still working for that because she's a very old woman, but she's still working hard for our environment. If you want to change the future, you must change what you are doing in the present. If not, it will be impossible. The greatest lesson that I have learned in life is that I still have a lot to learn. And so I really hope that you have learned a lot from me today. And I want you to tell me, what is your takeaway today? What is it that you are going to take from here to your classes? Is there anything new that you are going to add to your classes from now on? And I am going to read the chat to see what you tell me.
Of course, Marcela. This was amazing.
Let's see.
I learned a lot.
Okay, sorry, Romina, you had to go. That's it. We are just finishing. What is it that you are going to take to your classrooms? Let's see. Are you going to take PO2? Are you going to take the Sustainable Development Goals? Are you going to take global projects to your lessons? Okay. Is there anything that you want to take? Let's see, let's see. It will be lovely. The thinking routines, right? The rubrics. The sustainable goals. Okay, yes, please, Olga, take them to the classes, right? It will be wonderful. It will be wonderful if you can do so, right? And everything. Yes, of course, many things to implement. Okay, thank you. Right, global projects are excellent. Okay, if you want to contact me, you can follow me on social media. Right, the one I use the most is my Instagram account. Yeah, 21st Century Tools, and also LinkedIn. Right, I've been on LinkedIn a lot lately. Right, so the first two are the ones I use the most. Right, you can follow me there. Right, and last but not least, sorry, I want to say thank you, of course. Yeah, but wait a minute. I will be sending all this in the handout that you will be receiving after the presentation, all the websites that.
Yes. Sorry, Marce, I would like to tell you about the future event and also.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Andrea. Just this video. It's just 2 minutes. Pay attention to this.
Siempre ha sido nuestro compromiso cuidar a las comunidades y también al planeta. Por eso presentamos.
We are constantly being bombarded by problems that we face, and sometimes we can get completely overwhelmed. The story of the hummingbird is about this huge forest being consumed by a fire. All the animals in the forest come out and they are transfixed as they watch the forest burning, and they feel very overwhelmed, very powerless, except this little hummingbird. It says, I'm going to do something about the fire. So it flies to the nearest stream, takes a drop of water, and it puts it on the fire and goes up and down, up and down, up and down, as fast as it can. In the meantime, all the other animals, much bigger animals, like the elephant with a big trunk, could bring much more water. They are standing there helpless, and they are saying to the hummingbird, what do you think you can do? You're too little. This fire is too big. Your wings are too little. And you're big, so small. You can only bring a small drop of water at a time. But as they continue to discourage it, it turns to them without wasting any time and tells them, I am doing the best I can. And that, to me, is what all of us should do. We should always feel like a hummingbird. I may feel insignificant, but I certainly don't want to be like the animals watching as the planet goes down the drain. I will be a hummingbird. I will do the best I can.
And I really hope that from now on, you want to do the best you can. It doesn't matter if other teachers don't teach like this. It doesn't matter if other teachers don't believe in this. You have to trust me. They work. This works in the classrooms, right? So I hope you can do the best you can. Yes. Thank you very much for being here today. Yes, Andrea. Now it's all yours.
Oh, well, our pleasure to listen to you again, Marce. You are so inspiring that it's really a pleasure. Well, I would like to tell you that there are some new webinars. On the 24th, No existe diseño universal de aprendizajes y neurociencia by Liliana Vidal. This will be in Spanish. On the 8th of July, Building Gender Equality Through Children's Picture Books by Romina Muse, that I think she's here today. On the 12th of August, Capacitarte in Spanish as well, Técnicas de Enseñanza Digital by Paul Ponce. On the 26th of August, Sharing New Voices, Clear a Challenge or an Opportunity by Sandra Ojeda and Eugenia Yarino. On the 3rd of September, a free event to celebrate our Teachers Day, sharing across nations, international speakers, Liliana Malacrida from Italy, Laura Lancaster from UK, and Annie Altamirano and Patricia Arbona from Argentina. On the 9th, Enhancing the Learning of Pronunciation Through Intercultural Awareness Tasks by Cristina Chusano. On the 30th of September, Paul Ponce's Storytelling for Life. On the 14th of October, ESI Karina Usel-Tinger. On the 28th of October, El Teatro como Instrumento para Combatir el Bullying, Herramientas para Mejorar las Relaciones Socioafectivas en la Infancia y Adolescencia, por María Josefina Trull, de Drama Project. Y el 5 del 11, un evento gratuito para cerrar nuestro año con los invitados especiales de Jason Leville, de Paris, Paulino Brenner, Minnesota, pero es argentino, y Paul Ponce, americano, pero vive en Argentina también. Gratuito también para todas las teachers, speakers y sponsors. Y el 12 del 11 cerramos Born to Inspire con Jane Setter, Teaching English, Intonation, Priorities and Approaches. Así que bueno, tienen la primicia. Los esperamos a todos en los próximos eventos. No sé si Marce, podés sacar una foto a todos.
Sí, cómo no. ¿Cómo no? A ver. Say cheese, como quien diría. Ok, ahí estamos. Say cheese, Samara y Laura están ahí atrás también, pero bueno, vamos. 1, 2, 3. Ahí está Samara, muy bien, hola Sami. 1, 2, 3. Ok, ahí estamos. Ahí estamos todos. 2 lindas fotos que ahora después te paso antes, entonces, ¿sí?
Dale, perfecto. Un beso para todos. Gracias por estar.
Un beso
acá.
para todos. Gracias
Bye,
por
bye.
estar. Adiós.
Bye.
Hasta luego. Gracias por estar.